The Macabre World podcast is brought to you by Darker Art Studio, home of real human bone jewelry. Stock and custom pieces are available, so visit us on the web at www.darkerartstudio.com and show them your darker art side. Macabre World, a podcast from Darker Art Studio, where we explore the dark, strange, and unusual from this world and beyond. Hello and welcome to the Macabre World podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Digati, and with me today, singer from Stat and dark artist, Casey MacIsaac. Casey, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I was really just like giddy that you asked me to be on this. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, giddy's kind of a theme with you. I'm going to confess to our listeners that this isn't a cold call. Casey and I know each other. We've had the pleasure of meeting in person. Casey is lead singer and of Stat, which is the super terrific action team. We're going to have a link that you can go ahead and click and have a look at it. And in addition to that, Casey is also a very wonderful fine digital artist and has an Instagram also in the links that you can click to check out his artwork. So, Casey, were you always into the music art scene? How did that come about for you?
So I've always been into, I don't know if I would technically consider it art, but I've always been into drawing and, ever since I was young, but I never until recently, the past 2 years, I never really, metaphorically put pen to paper, you know what I mean? Because I've doodled. One time I drew, we were having a house party when I lived with one of my friends when I was younger. We're having a house party on Halloween. So I drew a Halloween house party flyer and we made a bunch of copies and we gave it to a bunch of our friends. And it was like a little, it was a headless zombie corpse flying through the air, and it had a black blob attached to the top of it. And the black blob is controlling the zombie head to say, come to our house party. But then there's a thought bubble coming out of the zombie head that says, I don't feel good. So,
Most house parties eventually.
Yeah. But I've just always been into the creepier side of art.
Oh, we encourage that here.
Yeah, it all started for me with when I got introduced to EC Comics. EC Comics is something that anytime I've ever done anything, I always try to think about, if this was a story from Tales from the Crypt, what is the twist? Or how do I make it seem this was written by Al Feldstein, or this was inspired by Graham Engels or Jack Davis, who are all EC artists that did all of their, everybody Mary Severin, Jack Severin, all the artists during the EC Comics era, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Haunt, all of those. I just fell in love with that art style, and I never thought that I would be able to do it. I just thought it was something that I was into that, I used to take my old EC comics that were wore out, and I wasn't there in the heyday, in the 60s, but you go to comic book stores and in the back bargain bins is where they have those kind of comics, the old school, the golden age, all that stuff. So I would just always go search out comics, and I've always been into art of really any kind. So I like going to museums, and I have a ton of friends that you're an artist, and
True.
I don't know. I've just always been in love with art, and
I think creative people tend to gravitate too. Also,
right?
We go to creative events, we go and do creative things, and when we get a chance, I'm going to say we have mostly creative conversations. I've had some pretty ridiculous conversations at shows, but I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
You have creative conversations, and we try. I have found that we all try to support each other. And one of the things in particular, and folks, you gotta look at his Instagram and have a look at this. I am particularly enchanted by your artwork and the eyes. The eyes are just so weird. It's great. You think taxidermy? I mean, we had an offline conversation where we talked about, like, taxidermy is not for everybody. Some people collect it. Some people will give it a wide berth, literally and figuratively, if they encounter it in the wild.
I'm one of those. I'm like,
yeah.
I can stay over there.
But I got to tell you, your paintings are really creepy.
Well, I mean, that is okay. So when I'm drawing, my artist handle is Creepy Cheap, which is based on two things. It's based on I just love creepy stuff, and I've always wanted to try to see if I could bring something creepy into the world. You like to try to bring a nightmare to life. Like, could I do it? I wanted to see if I could, not easily, just like, to create something that strikes an emotion in someone. Like they see it, like the eyes, because the eyes, I'm sure people notice, but I spend a lot of time on those. Like,
it shows.
To me, the eyes are what make the face. Like, sometimes I'll draw stuff that's missing an eye, or sometimes I'll draw stuff that doesn't have an eye, but there's an eye somewhere else. Like one time I drew, he looked like a shaman or something, but his eyes, where his sockets are, was just skin, caved in, no eyeballs. But then he had this long beard, but within the beard was this like protruding green eyeball. So I was just like, I try to like add eyes to everything that I'm doing. I've always been infatuated with eyes. I don't know what it is. Like, it's just like when I was younger, when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be an eye doctor. I thought I wanted to be an ophthalmologist because I was just so fascinated with eyes and like the way they looked and the way they interact with light and the different shapes and the different kinds of eyes, like the eye conditions that are out there, like the cat's eye. I know people that have cat's eye condition where their eye is, looks like a little cat's pupil.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just something. So I wanted to carry that over into my artwork. So most of the time I just draw two circles where eyes should be, or sometimes I'll purposely make them so that they're not in line with each other. So it kind of does add to the creepy factor.
Right. Because the eye, it throws it out of balance.
Because nobody's face, except for like, I don't know, a Hollywood actress, nobody has a perfect face. So I like to make my guys imperfect because I don't want it to be like, oh, like, look at this zombie monster's perfect features. Look at its inline eyes, Like, I'm not a comic book artist. I want them to look like, if you had a nightmare, what's the creepiest thing that you would see in your nightmares? Right. And I try to bring that to life. Like,
there's a moistness
within the best of my abilities.
It's very disconcerting.
What's that?
There's a moistness to the eyes. They all look sort of glassy and moist, and I'm like,
well, because like for me, it's like I want, if anything, when you're looking at the picture, I want something in the picture to seem real. Like whether it's like just like their teeth or like, I don't know, like you see some veins like that like look like they could be real veins. But most of the time, like I want people, like obviously this is the reaction you had, but I want people to look in this thing's eyes and see something. Like that's why
bladder twitch.
Yeah,
it really like does.
Because a lot of the times, like people just see the picture and they're like, "Oh, it's it's a skull, blah blah blah." But then look at the picture as a whole. Like look at it all. Look at the eyes in combination with the mouth. And sometimes I will make them look sad, or I will make them look like they're in full lustful bloodlust glee. I try to give them a personality, and it seems like that comes across from everything that people have commented about their stuff, about my stuff.
Now, where do the characters come from? Do they come from your nightmares?
So sometimes
a personalized question, but
well, yeah, I know. A lot of times it does come from things that creeped me out as a kid, or things that I liked as a kid, and I want to do my interpretation of it. I want to try to I don't know. I've drawn so many things like consecutively that sometimes I forget about some of the stuff that I've drawn. So I've done a couple homages to Jason, and I actually had one of the first things that I did, I'd say it was the fifth or sixth thing that I drew, was this thing of Jason, but it was Jason, and you see his mask, and then he's standing there, and his body's kind of blurred out, but overlaid over top of Jason was a ghostly image of his mom, but after she is decapitated, and he's placed her head on that altar to her in his shed that he lives in.
Right.
So it was sort of superimposed over top of that image. And people were like, "Oh, that's an awesome Jason." I'm like, "Yeah, but are you looking at the whole image?" You know what I mean? I tried to make it so that you have to look at it for a while to see that his mom's zombie face is superimposed over him. But Facebook took it down because of a caption that I put up for it. Because I put up, "Kill them all, kill them for mommy." And I was like, okay, well, if I explain it to them, maybe they'll understand what I'm trying to get at. But Facebook took it down because they thought I wanted to kill someone's mom. So
yeah, it didn't matter. A little, I mean, I think a conversation that's important to have when you talk about art and freedom of expression is censorship.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of it out there. Now, I get where I think there's a not so subtle line in between when you're painting a picture literally and figuratively with your words, and you're talking about you're referencing a movie character, you're referencing pantomime violence, even though it may look real on screen, it's pantomime violence, right. Unless you're Alec Baldwin. Don't write me letters. Do not write me letters about that, people. I
was going to say that one's. I would have stayed away from that one myself.
But it's there's a real suppression of expression, I think, and it's they don't. I don't. It's weird to say they, because you can't put a face on a shadow. You know what I mean? So right. It's they want to suppress what they want to suppress, but art is always going to be there. You're never going to stop it, because art in itself is a revolt, is an expression of revolt. You're never going to be able to stop that. Just look at graffiti. You can paint it over, but then some other graffiti artist is going to come along and paint over what you painted over. And folks got to be aware that mainstream is subjective. There were times when graffiti was underground, almost literally and figuratively, because it started in the subways.
Yeah.
And now there are shows, guys like Mr. Cartoon, guys like Banksy, that there are shows of street art.
Yeah. It's an art form now. It has been recognized for the art form that it is. But say someone came along and said, all art is banned. We don't want you to express yourselves, some 1984 type trip. We don't want you to express yourselves. You're not going to have the physical ability to express yourselves. You can't. It's not going to work, because people are going to find a way to express themselves.
Well, whenever it pulls out the mainstream, it jumps underground.
Right. It'll go underground. You're never going to stop creation. It's just not going to happen.
Nor should you. I think that's a dangerous thing, because when you start suppressing that, then the oppression begins.
And I feel like if we had more people that created, we had more creations, we would have less people trying to stop creations from coming to be. Because, I just feel like if you have the ability, even if you don't think you can, you should try to create something, write a song, draw a picture,
do a dance.
Yeah, do a dance, tell a joke, do something. And if you've never done something, then you have no right to tell other people that they can't do something.
Exactly.
Because you've never done it. So how would you know what experience that's going to give you if you've never done it?
And I think when art is controversial, and by art I mean also the arts, music and theater, cinema, I think when art in general is controversial, then you're doing it right, because you're getting an evocative response. You're getting a very visceral response. And when people think that your expressed art is dangerous enough to want to restrict it, you're onto something. I'm kind of on the old side. And one of the things I remember was when Mapplethorpe first did his exhibit. And he was a photographer back in, I want to say that was the 90s, where he did these exquisite photographs that were deemed X-rated. And the big deal was that he had received an arts grant, and through this arts grant was able to create this body of work that he then showed in New York. And people were like, all right, well, we want to ban this and no more grants for art, because this is what they do with it. It's all sin and naked people and all that stuff. I mean, and his work was exquisite, and some of it was controversial. Some of it had very heavy sexual themes to it. Some of it had, very deviant themes to it. And it was an amazing glimpse into how he saw life. Now, I can't relate to all of it, and I'm okay with that, but it's almost like looking over somebody's shoulder at what they're reading, I think.
Right. I mean, but the thing is, you relate to some of it though.
Sure.
And that's the point ultimately, is for you to create something that at least one other person can relate to. And to me, because it's like, if you've affected one person, then maybe that person will tell somebody else, like, hey, check this thing out that I saw. It really affected me. Or like, this thing is awesome. Go check it out.
And the negative is still an effect, though.
Absolutely.
I think
it is an effect, because they could go check that thing out and they might not like that thing. And they'd be like, dude, that thing was not as great as you said it was. But you know what? You still, you can't let the negative infect everything. There's always going to be negatives. And I'm not saying you have to be optimistic all the time, but you have to be optimistic. You can't not be optimistic. You can be negative every once in a while, but in my opinion, you can't. There's always going to be, even if it's invisible, there's always going to be a little sliver of light in the darkness. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, because there has to be, because you can't have complete darkness, just like you can't have complete light. There's always, there's always going to be a balance. And even if it's out of balance, it's still there. But you can't not have, there can be 99% dark, but there's always going to be 1% light.
Well,
and you just have to try to
too. I mean,
and you have to try to find that. Oh, there's gray. There is so much gray in there. There's like, there's, I'm saying like the white part is probably like infinitesimal in comparison to the gray and black part, but the white part is there.
It is there.
I agree with you. You have to, in my opinion, you always have to try to find that little bit, even if it's like the darkest, dankest, lowest
you
ever
were a
been.
Goosebumps kid, weren't you?
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely. I fell in love with that series when I read Welcome to the Dead House. That was my introduction into that, and I was like, I have to read all of these. I don't think I read every single one, but I read a lot of them. And my favorite one was I believe it's called My Teacher is an Alien.
Oh yeah.
And
I used to get them for my niece. So
just because visually, when I read that, like, even though it's just words on a page, like, R.L. Stine, he writes novels. He doesn't write picture books. So it's not like reading a comic, but it is in a way like reading a comic, because it's like reading any book. It plays in your mind like a movie. At least it does to me. It always has. When I read The Green Mile by Stephen King.
Oh, great book.
Every single time I was introduced to a character, my mind automatically related an actor to that person. Like, so in the movie, Tom Hanks plays he plays the main role. I forget his name, but he plays the main role. But for some reason, when I read the book for the first time, which was before I saw the movie or before they even made a movie, I saw what's his name, Ted Levine. Is that the actor? The guy who played Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. I do not know why, but I saw him as that character. And I read that book with him relaying the information to me. You know what I mean?
Art being interesting. Did you read The Green Mile cover to cover in one sitting, or were you part of that? Because when it was initially released, it was not released as a full-length book.
No, it was
released in 10 segments.
Right. I read it in high school, and I read the first book, and then I was like, oh, there's more books, and I ended up reading every book until the end. When they go into basically the present, and he's in the nursing home, and there's the mouse and the orderly and all that, which they kind of omitted all that stuff from the movie. Right.
It's sort of without being too much of a spoiler, it sort of brings it full circle.
Right, it does. And then the movie, they didn't really do that. They sort of did. They did it in their own way, but they didn't do it the way that King did it in the book. And King's another the dude is a mega power in imagination terms, in my opinion. He's just if there is a close to a imagination god in the world, I think it's Stephen King. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's somebody else.
But I don't think you are.
To me, I think it's Stephen King. And
what I love about his stuff is that he actually, now I grew up, I'm originally from New England. I've been, Jersey is the only place I've lived for any great length of time outside of New England. And it's one of the things I love about Stephen King's King's books is the people he writes about are very stereotypical. Pepperidge Farm remembers, you get that kind of guy is always in there, and there's Annie from Misery.
Dead is better.
Sometimes exactly. And what's really weird is I grew up with those people. I grew up with it. And I think one of many his great skills is taking something normal and getting you comfortable with it, and then turning it around into a very uncomfortable thing.
Right. It's teased. You're taking the American, whatever you want to call it, experience or dream, and then you're gonna see on the flip side the deviant version of that. And Stephen King is great at that, with
very much
just things where it's why did you write that? When I read it for the first time, when I got to that part of the book, when I was young, I didn't understand. But now that I'm older, I'm just he really did that. He really went there, and
he ruined clowns for a lot of people. Yeah. Not that they were so great.
He really went there, and Pennywise is just one of those characters that you love. You love him. You don't even love to hate him. You love him. And it's hard to, love something that eats children, but, you do. And you're just you see people dress up like him. They do the cosplays of Pennywise. I mean,
I've
people
seen some great ones at the horror
love it.
They're amazing.
And it's a way. It's Stephen King made the devil cool.
Really? Well, I don't know if Motley Crue did that first. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
they were just
if you listen to Zimmer's Hole, while they were running with the devil, they were in league with Satan. So, there are different schools of thinking on that. Sure. You're saying shout at the devil, praise the devil. We're his right hand. You know what I mean? That's the way metal is, in my opinion. There's always going to be somebody that's we're heavier than you. And
sure. Everybody's heavier, smart. There's always what I call the superlative collective.
Yeah, that's why Stat is in my opinion, the greatest band in the world. And I'm not saying that we're going to get so huge we should take over. No, I'm saying it, to me, Stat is the greatest band in the world. And I think that's how you should think about your band. And because that's going to carry over on stage, you know,
it
like
does.
if you're up there and you're having a fantastic time and you're joking around with your buddies and the audience sees that, that's what it's all about. You know,
there's an air of humility that I'm going to break a little bit and tell folks a little bit more about Stat.
Okay.
I, as you know, share my life with a wonderful metal musician. I am not.
Who is a great guy and hilarious, by the way.
He has his moments. Live with him. See how that goes for you.
Well, I don't want to live with the guy, but
you know, no, he's wonderful, and I'm grateful every day, to be honest with you. And that's not like too edgy and cool to say, but it's just the truth.
No, it's not edgy to say that you love someone.
Yeah, it's just the truth. I'm a very lucky person. But you know, one of the things is that like I've been a musician all my life.
Right.
I play, several instruments. I sing. I front a band also. But
a really great blues band, by the way.
We have a good time. Thank you. That's kind of stuff I dig to do. So for me, metal growing up, and I'm not bashful, shy, or cagey about my age. I'm a month shy of 54. So when I'm growing up, I graduated high school in 86. So Motley Crue was huge, Iron Maiden, huge. So when I think metal, prior to some of my experiences in exploring the local scene, I thought of Motley. I think the hardest stuff I remember was like Motorhead, Anthrax, and I love Motorhead. I think Motorhead's a class, but that's really rock and roll. And actually,
and they'll even say they're rock and roll. We're a rock Motorhead. And roll band. Motorhead will say we're a rock and roll band, and Motorhead fans will say that they're a rock and roll band. And if you call them a metal band, Motorhead fans will beat you up.
Oh, they can take their best shot.
Well, I mean, they're not going to beat.
I'm little,
up,
but I'm scrappy.
I mean, maybe they'll beat you up verbally, like, what the hell are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah,
Well, no, because people mash them in with metal, and I just think of them as hard rock
because they inspired a lot of metal bands.
They sure did.
So, I mean, there ain't a metal band out there. I was never really inspired by Motorhead. I liked Motorhead, but like, I was more inspired by like bands that were doing different, like just standing out, trying to do something different. Like the very first album that shook me to my core, the first time I heard it, was The Great Southern Trendkill by Pantera. Because like
that's I had heard interesting cats that band.
I heard like what I considered heavy music up to that point, like Metallica. I was like, oh, Metallica. Metallica was my favorite band for like 10 years. Like that, I still love them. They're still like in my heart. Like even though everything they put out recently has not been that great, but I'm still a Metallica fan. I still love Metallica. But Pantera was one of those bands, especially Great Southern Trendkill. When that came out, I hadn't even heard Vulgar Display or Cowboys from Hell or any of that stuff yet. I got introduced to Pantera by like what I consider their heaviest, scariest album. I mean, when they start the Great Southern Trendkill and Phil lets out that freaking like,
it's a lot.
It freaking blew me away. I was like, how does music sound like this? What are you talking about? That's real?
Right. Like, it seems well, to me, it seemed avant-garde. The first song I heard from Pantera was Cemetery Gates.
Oh, that's a freaking great song.
It is.
Love Cemetery.
I absolutely love it myself. In fact, I sometimes sit around tooling around. You can see it behind me. For you folks at home, just use your imagination.
Right.
I got a face for radio, man. That's why this is set up this way. But I have a 12 string, and I'll just sit and I'll try to do that intro. That's like one of my warm-ups. I'm trying to play
dude,
with
they're okay. So people talk about Pantera. Oh, they're hard driving Texas metal band. Blah blah blah. Some of their ballads, in my opinion, are better than most of their catalog.
They're complex, they're interesting, and they're heartfelt. They're really
like
good.
when you can hear it coming from Phil Anselmo's heart, like no matter what they say about the dude and his prime, you couldn't F with him. You could not F with the dude. And
you can be fully uncensored here if you'd like.
Yeah. It's I didn't know. I didn't want to.
That's cool.
Yeah. But you couldn't fuck with him. You really couldn't. You absolutely could not. But like I said, some of their like really slower stuff it's it just affects me different. I don't know why. Like the song, I don't know the name of the song. The one about his best friend dying.
Oh, I don't think I know it.
Man, that song, when I heard that song for the first time, I almost cried. Like, because I had friends that like were, into drugs and like were pretty much gonna kick it. Like, and they were doing it to themselves. And then there was nothing I could do. Right. Half of my graduating class from high school, 7 of them have died from drug overdoses.
Oh, that's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
And I went to my 10 year, but I didn't go to my 20 year because I didn't really have friends in high school. I didn't like make friends with people. I just kind of like kept to myself.
You're the weird kid.
I was definitely the weird kid. I had a couple people that like friends that lived in town that, went to high school with me, but like, I didn't really have friends. As soon as I could get out of the high school structure, like I got put into trade school. I got put into Gloucester County Institute of Technology for screen printing. And I'm so glad I did that because I don't think that I would be in a band today if I didn't take that class. Because I took that class, it was printing and duplication. So it's basically learning about screen printing and offset printing, which is like printing of like newspapers and magazines and things like that. And I got into it to the point where I used to go to competitions and things. They were called Skills USA. And I just kind of I was like, screen printing is really cool. So I got a school to go work at a bindery, which is like when you get your check at the restaurant, they pull it off the little pad. That's what we used to print. The pad with the numbers at the top, the red numbers.
Right.
And it's just a machine and the stack is like this big and it just like prints them. And then you put them into it's like a hot glue machine that like glues the back and then presses the cardboard backing on it.
Weird fact. I took up bookbinding as a hobby this year. I did. So no,
nice.
This would make no sense.
Yeah. So you get what I'm saying.
I get I know what PVA is now.
Right. So and then I got a job at a t-shirt printing place in Berlin, New Jersey. And I met this guy. They used to have 2 automatic machines. One was like a 16 head and one was like a 15 or 14 head. And they're fully automatic and they're, run by a button machine. But the dude who was putting the shirts on was this guy named Chris Thayer. And he's a tattoo artist in Maryland right now at a place called Skull and Rose Tattoo. I'm sorry if I'm shouting him out, but I hype my friends up. I hype my friends up. So, I met him and he introduced me to so much music that I still listen to, that like he really like gave me my musical education. And like he's one of the coolest dudes in the world. And I'll never be able to thank him for that. And like I said, I wouldn't be in a band now if it wasn't for meeting him and like getting introduced to death metal and like gore grind and like all the like super heavy stuff. And I don't know. I just fell in love with that kind of music. I fell in love with death metal. I just like things that are extreme. I don't know what it is. It's just like, I'm not going to go skiing or anything like that. I'm not that kind of extreme person, but I just like things that are like more on the edge of
some of these genres that we're talking about. And like I said, I grew up, my heavy stuff for me was, and I loved all this stuff. I love Deep Purple. I love Iron Maiden. I love all that stuff. That's, that was I guess that's like your OG hard rock, really. But at one point, Black Sabbath was noted as metal, and that was a big thing. So here I go living my life, listening to that, thinking I'm listening to heavy music or heavy metal. And, the rest of the time it's all like Laurel Canyon stuff.
Right.
And then it's like, well, do you want to see my band Blasphemous?
I thought I knew.
Have got to be kidding.
I thought I knew what I was into musically. Like when I was fully like aware of like, okay, this is what I'm into.
Before I get in too much trouble, we just say Blasphemous is great at what they do.
Yeah,
it was just,
no, they are.
I was like, you have got. I did not know that type of scene, that type of intensity existed. It was new.
I actually have a question. Okay. Was Steve in Blasphemous?
At one point in time, yes.
Okay, because when I was in my very first band with the drummer from Stat, it was when we met. We played with Blasphemous a couple times, and when I met Steve, obviously years later when he's in Seeds of Perdition, I was like, he looks really familiar, and I don't know where I know him from.
If you're going back to for all you locals in South Jersey scene to the Pirates Den days, yes.
Oh my God, yeah, because we played the Pirates Den.
I want to say that had to have been 2005, 2006 ish.
Yes, because when the band that I was in with Brett, the drummer, our band basically imploded in 2006. So it had to be around that same time. So yes. I definitely saw him with Blasphemous.
But I didn't know that type of, I think the hardest thing I'd seen up until that point was Anthrax. And I saw them at Toad's Place in New London, Connecticut, because I hung out with some friends and I actually wanted to see Motorhead. And I was outside of Toad's Place at the time smoking. Anthrax was on because that was just starting to push my envelope. And then, and I got introduced, and you see me at all the shows and people go, well, if you don't really love the music, why do you go? I said, because I love the passion. I love the people.
Absolutely.
I like the reaction. I like the crowd. But let me tell you what a huge game changer was. Now get your blushing boots on because it's coming.
Oh boy.
Was when I saw Stat. Stat is the band for everyone.
I've never been able to take a compliment. It's just, I don't know. But I absolutely appreciate the living hell out of it. Well, my reaction doesn't.
There's a lot of performance there.
Well, that's what we try to do.
There's a lot going on. It's not just that you're gonna do the music, the harder, faster, whatever, and is that all of you. And I'm collectively speaking of the band. And again, you can call me biased because I know you all personally to be like wonderful humans, but all of you put 110% in a performance. Yeah. And some of the stuff that you do is so creative and so unexpected. And I'm going to say it, it's absolutely fucking silly. And it's so much fun because I think it's ludicrous. Lot of folks get to the point where they take themselves and it's not even the genre. Cause I mean, I work, blues musicians, right? You get yourself to a point where you take yourself so seriously that, you just screw yourself up too tight.
We as a band, I don't think we could mentally, any of us could do that. Like, I mean, Bert, yes, as good as a bass player, as a front man, as, a friend, as good as he is the most humble dude when it comes to the music. He just, you say, yo, man, great show. You were great. Thank you so much.
Always gives credit to the band.
He has absolutely zero ego, no ego, none. And that's the thing. Everyone in our band and Stat, Tom, Brett, Bert, and me, none of us are there to try and be the leader of the band. None of us are there to try and be the standout of the band. We're there to make Stat the best it can possibly be. The thing I like to say is we're Stat. We like to fuck around, but when we're on stage, we're not fucking around. You know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely. Well, when we're on stage, some comedian somewhere
said comedy was a serious business, and it's kind of the same sentiment.
Right. You have to commit to it. And when I first got in the band, I'm not the original vocalist of Stat. The original vocalist of Stat is a guy named Ryan Hahn, who they call Smurf. And if you want to talk about a powerhouse frontman that I was like afraid to step into the shoes of, he's the guy. Because he used to have a band called Undermine, which was like pretty big in our scene, our area. And they might have played with Blasphemous a couple times, like back in the day. But this dude is like a lightning rod on stage. He's jumping around. He's getting the crowd hype. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to follow in them footsteps? And then I was like, I can't, because I can't just try to be him. I got to be myself.
Exactly.
So as soon as I like accepted that, I'm me up there, because I mean, technically I'm not that's not me on stage. Like, because I do treat it as a professional thing. Like when we're playing, like it's not very different from me, but it is, I have a stage persona, and it's not like,
I'm a performer as well. I think all of us do. When you have the mic in your hand and you're in front of it, I mean, it develops from a part of you, but it is its own thing.
Yeah, that's stat Casey is the best way that I can put it. Like, that's Super Terrific Action Team Casey. The guy you see on stage is the lead singer of Super Terrific Action Team. The guy you see off stage is Casey MacIsaac, who also happens to sing for Super Terrific Action Team.
Right, exactly.
So it's just one of those things that we don't take it serious, and we're absolutely serious about not being serious.
That's a great way to put it. I like that quote. We're absolutely serious about not being serious.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to give away any of the Easter eggs. But I will tell folks that now, when's the next time you guys are playing?
We are playing July 16th at a place called The Church up in Lebanon, PA. I think the 16th is a Saturday. I'm pretty sure it's the 16th.
It is indeed. Okay.
Because it's either the 13th or the 16th, but I don't think it could be the 13th, because that would be like the middle of the week.
Right.
So
the 16th is a Saturday.
Okay. The 16th, and we're playing with Ashes to Vanity, who is a great, great local band.
They are fun.
These dudes, in my opinion,
they're living it.
They're the future. Like, yeah, because they're taking what inspired them and they're embracing it, but they're creating something new out of it. And which is basically what every band does. But these dudes are like, they're really going for like the showmanship, like,
absolutely.
And they're just great at their instruments. Sebastian can blow anybody away locally, I think, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I never want to put anything out there where it's like I'm trying to disparage anybody. But Sebastian is one of them guitar players. He's just unnaturally gifted, and like, he's so young that he's only going to get better.
Right. So yeah. That's always something that's kind of exciting to see unfold.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to give away too many of the any of the stat Easter eggs. But I have mentioned that it's very theatrical. And like you said, you take it very seriously, that you don't take yourself too seriously. And anyone, if I recommend you go out and check out Stat, because one of the most fun things is there are some compositions and some covers that I'll describe as completely unexpected.
They are unexpected, because we do a couple covers. If you don't want to give them away, I'm not going to give them away.
Oh, either. You can give them away. But, I just don't think that's my job.
We do a cover of Bonnie Tyler's Hero, which a lot of people know.
Sure.
But it's weird, because like, I'll say it on stage and it always gets the same reaction. I'm like, hey, you guys know Bonnie Tyler? And most of the people don't, because we're playing to maybe we're playing with a bunch of younger bands. Like, I'm 42 years old, so we're playing with a bunch of other bands that are young kids that are up and coming, and we got a lot of great young bands like Thracia and Ashes, but we're out there and we're just trying to tell everyone that we're Stat. We're not like everybody else, but we want you to have the greatest time that you can have. So here's Bonnie Tyler holding out for a hero. We're your hero. We're here to save you. We are the Super Terrific Action Team.
Well, it produces a great thing. So you got like this wonderful whimsy, which is, I hate to bring this to you, but it's in both off stage and on stage, Casey. There's this beautiful sense of whimsy.
Yeah, I just love having fun, and when I'm with my friends, it's like amplified.
That is so diametrically opposed to the theme of your art.
That's why.
Is that your yin and yang?
So here's the thing. So that basically is why I call myself my art handle is Creepy Cheap, right? So I like to draw creepy stuff, but have you ever read the Chronicles of Narnia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know Reepa Cheap, the mouse.
Yes.
The swordsman mouse. He's this little tiny minuscule thing that nobody would take seriously if they saw in real life. Like, he's a little mouse with a sword. What the hell is he going to do? But he becomes this hero like he becomes this like mythical figure, you know? So I was like, how could I like, because inside I'm kind of like scared and insecure about putting certain things out into the world, like my physical image and my art, and even like singing on stage. Like singing, like I can scream, I'll scream all day, I'll scream in your face, I'll scream in your kid's face, I don't care. Singing, I don't really want to look at you when I'm singing. I don't know what it is. It's different somehow.
Now, did you sing as a kid? Were you in chorus or
like I did chorus and stuff. I didn't really join a choir, but I never really like sang really anywhere except karaoke. Like I did karaoke and stuff, and I sang, and I've always thought I've had a pretty decent voice. Like, you not do,
because I've actually heard you accidentally sing.
So me and Bert and Johnny Seymour,
you could all sing. I've heard you all accidentally sing.
Yeah, so I don't, you know, I don't really like singing, but I have a nice tone, I think, when I do sing, and people compliment me on my tone. So
I would call it a clear, even tenor.
And that was the thing that it was funny, because when we were first talking about doing Hero, when I first got in the band, I wasn't even technically in the band. They wanted me to fill in for Smurf at a show because he had something going on, or I think he was something to do with his kids or something, and he was kind of on his way out of the band because his wife was pregnant with twins.
Oh my
so
goodness.
He was kind of like sort of laying the groundwork for leaving the band. Like he was telling them like, I got a lot going on. I'm starting this tour business, because he started a worldwide tour business where he takes people on like guided tours of like Iceland and like Europe and all the stuff. Which
they got bars made of ice and they throw vodka down them, I heard.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to go. I don't think I'm ever going to, but but he does all that stuff, and I think that was becoming too time consuming for him. So he was like letting them know slowly, like, yo, I don't, I got this going on. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play shows here and there. And Brett, the drummer, is my best friend. We've been best friends for like probably like 15, 16 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he was drumming for them for a long time, and then he was like, I think Smurf is gonna quit soon. He was like, do you think you have any like inclination to like come out of retirement, basically? Because at that point I hadn't been in the band for probably like 5, 6, maybe 10 years, and I was like, yeah, I'm down for it. I'm cool with it. So they wanted me to fill in for him for a show, so I learned their set list, and then I filled in for them at this place called the Irish Pole. But we had this idea that since it wasn't a real stat show, that we were going to go in costume, which is obviously carried over to real stat shows. So we all dressed up like...
there are a lot of costumes.
Yeah, we've all dressed up like...
Bert's last one killed me, and you know why.
Yeah. His tights that he wore that night, oh my God. Okay. So we decided we were all going to go as like 80s inspired something or other. I think it was like wrestling 80s inspired. So Bert dressed up in like this Macho Man thing with like if you thought the tights that he wore were hilarious, you should have seen the ones at the Irish Pole. They were freaking bonkers. He had light up boots that I think he only used once because I think he sweated the electronics out. But he had these like light up boots, right? So he had these light up boots. I just happened to find at Goodwill a 4 Horsemen shirt from like the old 4 Horsemen wrestling like gimmick that they did. So I cut it off halfway, so it was like a tube top, and like my stomach was hanging out, and like I had these like surfer shorts on, and we all just like dressed up like hilariously. And there was another band there called Inviolate. I think they're from Virginia, but their singer is a belly dancer who dances with like swords on her head.
Wow.
And I'm not going to get her name right, and I don't think I've ever gotten it right. I think her name is Kadria. I don't know, because I'm pretty sure I butchered her name a million times. But she was the vocalist, lead singer. She's basically the leader of the band. And she had this coin sash that she was wearing while she was belly dancing with the swords. So while we were playing, she came over and she put it on me while we were playing. And then she put an inviolate sticker like on like right above my belly button on my stomach.
Oh,
and
that had to hurt coming off.
But we got a really good reaction from that show. And then they had another show that was coming up, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to play this show with us too?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Just let me know if Smurf can't do it, and I'm down for you guys." So they were like, "Well, Smurf can't do it. Can you come to practice this week?" I said, "Yeah." So I showed up to practice, and Smurf had quit the band. Like, they knew this. So they knew this. Smurf had quit the band. They wanted me to be their singer. So what they did was they took a little squishy fake penis, like a little, like I don't know, it's like a little water-filled like fake dildo type thing. And they wrote "Will you hold Stat's cock" or something like that on it. And they gave it to me in like a present box, because they were like, "Oh, we want to give you a present for helping us out with that show." So I opened the box.
Did anybody get this on video?
I don't think they
did. That's like a prom proposal.
I think they took I think there's a couple pictures floating around. I got to ask Tom. I think he took a picture. But yeah, and I was like, "Is this for real? Like, you guys want me to sing for you?" And they were like, "Yeah, dude." I was like, so it's been pretty much gung-ho ever since then.
That's awesome. Well, we've got a little bit of time left, and I thought, because one of the things that, like I said, I enjoy about Stat, and I enjoy about you both on and off stage, is your sense of whimsy. So I put together a list of odd questions and a couple of this or that. So let's get a little look inside it. All right.
Okay.
So odd question number 1. What theme song would play if you had your druthers? What theme song would play every time you entered a room?
What theme song will play every time I enter a room?
You could pick one theme song to play every time.
Are we talking about theme songs like from TV shows, or like a song that
what would be your
my
theme?
theme?
It could be any song. It could be your theme song.
Man,
yeah,
that's a
tough
good
one, isn't
question.
It? Yeah. I gotta tell you, for me, it was one of those things, like, I couldn't think of what would be my theme song. I kept thinking of songs I would never want to be my theme song, like the theme from Rocky, for obvious reasons, because that just irked me.
Well, yeah, nobody wants that.
No. Well, the thing is that I've been Rocky since I was 3 hours old, and every time they go Rocky, me like dan 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 dan. I'm like, oh no, not again.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that being annoying.
Yeah, and then I'm a woman of substance, as I like to call it. It's a whole lot of Rosie's out. There's a whole bunch of, like, I keep thinking of songs I wouldn't want, but what would you want to play when you walked into a room?
Let's see.
It's a harder question, but
it's not hard. I'm trying to narrow it down. It's an AC/DC song. I don't know which one though.
Okay.
I'm trying to pinpoint the song, but it would definitely be an AC/DC song.
Something with AC/DC. Okay.
Because in my opinion, AC/DC is the greatest rock and roll band that's ever lived. Just because they don't
a force
deviate. They don't, like, they make rock and roll. That's what they do. If it all sounds the same, then that's on purpose, because that's what they're making. That they're making rock and roll.
They really are.
Yeah. So it would be in the Bon Scott era.
So Bon Scott, AC/DC. I like Thunderstruck a lot.
Yeah, Thunderstruck is a good one. Man.
Yeah, well, we'll let you. And you know what's funny? Actually, the other question I wrote down, I think you already gave me the answer.
Okay.
It's already the other question I had was, if you were a brand, what would your slogan be? And I think it would have to. I love the quote. We're
absolutely serious about not being serious.
I think you got. So there we go. We can mark that one off. And then I wrote down some questions for this or that.
Okay.
Have you ever played this or that? It's apples, oranges.
I don't think I've ever played this or that.
Okay. So macaroni salad or potato salad?
Macaroni salad.
What's wrong with you?
I just really? Personally, I don't like potato salad. I love potatoes. I just don't like potato salad.
You can tell you're not Italian because cold pasta is repugnant.
I'm half Italian, half Scottish.
Do you feel guilty because you use a sword? No, what is that?
No, I feel
you kill people
like,
and eat, or Actually,
I feel more like I'd use a mace or something. I don't think I'd use a sword.
And you know what's funny? I should have noticed that it had to have been Scottish because it's Mac, not
yes, MacIsaac. Yeah, a lot of people say that, and I'm like, because a lot of people don't know. You actually said my last name right, which I'm surprised.
MacIsaac. Yeah,
a lot of people can't say it. Like if they'll call me, they'll be like, "Is Mr. MacIsaac there?" And I'm like, "Can you read?" Like it literally says Mac Isaac. Like how hard is that to say? But
do you know how
my
many people
grandfather
up
used
my
to
first
say,
name?
"What's that?"
My real first name is Raquel.
Raquel.
Perfect.
Right. I mean, that's yeah.
I've been sitting in places where they call your name Rachel.
Raquel.
And I'm like, well, you put a Q in it, you're gonna confuse people.
Just call me Rocky, damn it.
Well, my dad started calling me Rocky when I was 3 hours old, and as an adult, obviously outside the family, professionally, I mean, everybody goes, "Why do you go by Rocky when Raquel is such a lovely name?" I said, "It's not that I have anything against it. I have no problem with being addressed either way. It's just that it's easier for people to remember and spell." And it takes the Q confusion out of the event. So, Simpsons or Family Guy?
Simpsons all the way. I've never really been a huge Family Guy person. I mean, it's funny, but at a certain point, I get just bored by it.
Well,
but the Simpsons, it's like,
state.
Yeah, the Simpsons is like so rich with like everything that they do. I can't say it's not the Simpsons, and the Simpsons is just a juggernaut. I mean, if you say Family Guy, you're lying to yourself.
Not if you're from Rhode Island.
If you're from Rhode Island,
there's a lot of Easter eggs in there.
Yeah, you get the Easter eggs, and someone from Rhode Island would get them.
Okay,
but then again, I've never been to Springfield either, so.
Also true. There is no town called Quahog in Rhode Island. It's a big joke. Now you're a gentleman with what I would call formidable whiskers.
Formidable.
So this is formidable whiskers. That is a beard to contend with. So I'm going to say mullet or mutton chops.
Mutton chops all the way. Mullets are the stupidest hairstyle. I hate mullets to an nth degree. I hate them. Like, I can't believe it came back in style. I can't believe anyone would want to wear that on their head. It just, I can't, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Last but not least, Bigfoot or UFOs?
Neither of them exist, but UFOs. Just because
it's more interesting.
Bigfoot is cool and all, but like he's just like, if he's real, he's just like a big hairy man ape. Like aliens could literally look like
anything. He's a hipster.
Yeah, he's basically a hipster. Like I'm Bigfoot. If someone caught me in the right light, they could think I'm Bigfoot. Not a small Bigfoot, obviously, but still. But like, I just think like aliens are so much more interesting just because we think we know what aliens look like, but the universe is so vast. How the hell do we know anything? I don't think we know anything at all. We're so infinitesimal. We're so infinitesimal in the span of the cosmos that it's like, you can't even fathom it. You really can't. So
a microscopic speck on the cosmic map.
So to me, a hairy beast that dwells in the woods and celestial beings that could take any form, for me, it's aliens. Like, it's aliens.
That just makes the simplest part. All right, folks, you got to get out to see Stat. And you said it's July 16th at the church in
Lebanon, PA.
And there are links that you can go to in the description. So definitely click on Casey's artwork. Definitely click on Stat. You have got to see Stat. Look him up on YouTube. Like him on Facebook.
I say that to everybody. And I'd always tell everyone, I'm like, look, come to see Stat the first time, but also come to see us multiple times because you're not going to see the same Stat show that you saw before.
I can vouch for that. I've never seen the same show twice.
You're going to see a different show every time.
And there's never been a show that I didn't enjoy.
I appreciate that so much. You have no idea.
And well, the thing is that, and I'm here to say it. I mean, I wish I'm not gonna lie. People who know me know that this isn't my primary genre of enjoyment to listen to. But the thing is these shows are so much fun, and there's so much more to the showmanship, to the presentation, to the passion, to the creativity that anyone who enjoys a good show can go and appreciate. So if you're up for something cool, different, and you want to expand your horizons, this is what you got to do.
We're on stage. We're having a good time. We don't really care if you have a good time, but if you do, then that is even better. You know, like we're gonna go be stat 100%, whether there's one person there or whether there's a billion people there. So that one person is going to get the show of their life.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So it's all collateral fun.
Yeah, we're all gas, no brakes, baby.
That's it. All right, Casey, thank you so much. And to all you folks out there, definitely check out his stuff, and we'll see you soon. Stay kooky, my friends. Thank you for listening to Macabre World. You can find us on the web at www.darkerartsstudio.com.